Hello, my name is Professor Nick Embleton, and I am a consultant neonatologist and professor of neonatal medicine from Newcastle upon Tyne in the north of England. And I'm delighted to join you today for your study day. And I will be speaking about the Butterfly Project, loss of a baby from a multiple pregnancy. And I want to thank Claudine and the team, the Philippine General Hospital and the Division of Newborn Medicine for inviting me. I'm sorry I can't be there with you, but I'm very happy to be in contact with you via email if you have any specific questions. So the project that I've been involved with for 10 or 15 years is based around some qualitative research that we conducted with bereaved parents and staff on a neonatal unit. And this included nurses and midwives, sonographers, as well as neonatologists and parents. And we focused in on co-twin baby loss, so where there may be one or more babies from a multiple pregnancy who die, but where there is at least one survivor. And this may happen in the context of a miscarriage, a stillbirth, or a neonatal death. And I've put a trigger warning there because I know that sadly, some of you in the audience may have your own experiences of reproductive loss, and so this talk might be upsetting. And as part of our work, we produced guidelines in conjunction with parents. We made some films and we made some online learning courses, and we call all of this the Butterfly Project. Now, when I came to work in this area, I thought about when I was thinking about palliative care or end-of-life care, we're very much looking at the literature. We saw people writing a lot about good practice and communication and the importance of empathy. And there's also a large body of work looking at the ethical aspects, the morals, the rights and wrongs of the baby, the rights and wrongs, rights for the parent. And this is kind of mainly what the literature was looking at many years ago. But the more I went into the research, I realized that this was all set in a social context. And we tend to get very focused in life on the NICU without stopping to realize that all of society is out there. And really, the work that I've been involved in involved parents, bereaved parents, and staff telling stories about their life, the journeys they've had with their babies, how they told friends and family about their babies and how their babies died, what they do on the birthdays or the anniversaries of the baby's death. And it made me think very much about my identity as a clinician. Was my professional identity separate from my personal identity? Was it okay for me to be friends with some of these parents? And a lot of this work really focused in on people's feelings. And I often say to people that no one is more surprised than I am that I became so interested in the feelings of the parents and other staff and their experiences in the area of baby loss and palliative care. And when we spoke to parents, they were generally positive about the support provided by staff. We came up with this phrase, it's the little things that count, these touches of humanity in a very scary technical world. And what I learned was that parents remember years, if not decades later, how we made them feel. They may not remember the precise words, but they always remember how we made them feel. And often we had a unique bond with the baby. We may have been some of the few people around who ever got to know their baby whilst their baby was still alive. And they didn't expect us as doctors or nurses to be counselors or miracle workers, but they all did expect that we genuinely cared and that we expressed this sympathy. And in our research, we noted the challenges where you have a twin pregnancy and one baby survives, but yet one baby has died. And society in general is fascinated by twins. You'll see lots of depictions of twins in the media, in films or in documentaries. And you know that twinning rates are increasing worldwide for a whole series of factors, perhaps assisted reproduction or increasing maternal age. But people rarely stop to think that twins or triplets may grow up separately or one of them may die. And this here on the left is a film that was available on Netflix, and it's probably available on some other channel somewhere. This is a very sad story about three boys, identical triplets, who were separated at birth in what we know, or we would consider now, a kind of cruel, unethical experiment. But they had no idea that they were triplets, and they only found each other when they were 18. And for a period in time, they became media stars, and they were on the local TV and radio talking about how they'd found each other. But bit by bit, the stress of having never been brothers as children growing up got to them, and all of them reported feeling uh, having difficulties with their mental health. And very sadly, one of them ended up committing suicide. And this photo here is from an American daytime talk show. And these two girls, who were about 7 or 8 years of age, had been adopted separately from China, and the parents had been told that they were singletons. And I don't know how they found each other, but I think you can just see here in their faces the emotion that they feel when they're reconnected with their twin. So we see twins and triplets as specials, and all of us are fascinated and moved by their stories. Elvis Presley was a twin, and his brother died about half an hour before him. And he was often photographed at the grave of his brother. And his mum said that being a twin, whose twin brother had died, defined his life and career. And he was encouraged by Liberace, who himself was a twinless twin. Liberace's brother died at birth. And these two men were very flamboyant performers. And one wonders how much of being a twin where the other twin died defined how and who they were. And if we walk down a street, we've no idea whether the people we pass on the street may be twins or triplets, and we've no idea whether any of them might be what we call a twinless twin. But if you are a twin, I know that this will define how you think about yourself, and it shapes your whole identity. And Cristiano Ronaldo, probably the most famous footballer on the planet, and his partner Georgina Rodriguez, sadly reported a few years ago that in their twin pregnancy, their baby boy died shortly before delivery at around about 35 weeks, and we don't know why the twin died. But this clearly impacts on the whole family and the other children in the family, and emphasizes how challenging this may be. And parents may lose a baby from multiple pregnancy, either because of early pregnancy or perhaps a pregnancy due to assisted reproductive technology, or maybe because of a termination for medical reasons. But most of the parents we spoke to had suffered the death of a twin on the neonatal unit. And our research really wanted to uncover how parents coped and how our behaviors helped or hindered, and what we could best do to make a difference. And just think about these different scenarios. What must it be like to do the antenatal scan of twins and realize you can only hear one heartbeat? And what must it be like if you had twins and one died and then the surviving twin becomes sick? And what does it feel like to you as doctors and nurses when you come to the neonatal unit to look after babies and you didn't realize that one of those babies was a twin whose twin brother or sister had died? And what does it feel like to parents? They used to come to the neonatal unit and visit two twins, and now there's just one there. And what must it feel like when they go home, and then all the fears about how they then explain to that surviving baby that they had a twin brother or twin sister? So I think it's easy to understand how complicated this area is. And what must it feel like if we imagine walking in somebody else's shoes? What must it feel like if you had a twin pregnancy and one died in utero, but you have to keep coming back to clinic? And what does it feel like on the postnatal ward when you see other twins, or you return to the same room on the neonatal unit where you used to have twins? What does it feel like when you come for a follow-up and nobody mentions the twin brother or sister who died? And then what do you feel like when you walk down the street and you see other twins in a pushchair? And what I want to emphasize to all of you is that all of you, as doctors and nurses, have enormous power, and that the way that you behave towards these parents, that your behaviors and actions affect these families for the rest of their lives. We don't seem to be able to deal with both grief and joy. We're great at dealing with the grief if there's just one baby that has died, and we're great at being delighted and happy when it all goes fine. but we're not managing the two together very well. So we conducted some qualitative studies, and I'm not going to go through these in detail, but we conducted a thematic analysis and identified these 8 themes. And these are the importance of recognizing the twin status for both the babies, importance of acknowledging the bereavement, supporting the parents emotionally, providing appropriate information to the parents at all stages of the neonatal stay, the importance of continuity of staffing. Memory making is obviously a very big topic, and the importance of both physical and emotional memories. Some aspects around the logistics on the neonatal unit, and then importantly, preparing parents for when they go home from the neonatal unit. And there were many, many more themes that came up. We wanted to focus in on those that maybe could make a practical difference. So if you want to take away one thing from the talk today, I would take away the importance of acknowledgement, acknowledging twin status, acknowledging the bereavement, acknowledging just how difficult this must be for parents. So that acknowledgement and the validity for the parents' feelings is really very important. The nurses would ask, how was your pregnancy with him? They forget about him being a twin and everything like that. And the mother said, it's not just that they forget, a lot of them didn't know. So a lot of us may not have known that the baby we were looking after was actually a surviving twin. And when we conducted some workshops with parents, it was a parent who suggested to me a little blue butterfly. Just put a butterfly on the cot and then they know he's a twin, and then it solved the problem. And we've developed this idea now and worked with this for more than 10 years. And we first of all just printed these out, and you can do this on your own neonatal units, printed them out and laminated them. And then we got parents to write the name of the baby who had died on the butterfly cot card. And you can see pictures here from my unit that these 2 babies from different families, both of them had suffered the loss of a twin brother or sister. And so these families immediately kind of recognized each other and connected. One of the doctors at the time really quite upset me, and she often said to me, at least you still got one. That was one of the worst things that anyone could possibly say. So before you tell a grieving parent to be grateful for the children they have, think about which one of yours you could live without. When you just take a few seconds to reflect on that, you realize how challenging this must be. And one of my takeaways from this lecture is, if you ever find yourself wanting to say something like, at least, what you're trying to do here is downplay somebody else's anxiety or grief. And so always stop to think before you use the words, at least. This is a mum talking about the funeral. It was just a bit matter of fact to people. So this was the mum who felt that the people who were helping plan the funeral just didn't really care about that baby specifically. One of the nurses that was least thoughtful kept calling him, the surviving twin, by his brother's dead name. And so we found that encouraging parents to write the name of the baby who had died on the cot card provided a lot of kind of symbolic support to parents, but it also helped us remember the name of the baby who died, and it allowed us and the nurses to talk about that baby by name. Continuity was very important to parents. They found working with new nurses or new doctors quite hard when they felt they had to tell the story again. So parents expect us as doctors to know the story. They expect us to know what happened to the twin who died, when did it happen and where and what was wrong with the baby. So they expect us to know the medical details, but at the same time, they do want opportunities to talk about the baby if they want. So again, just emphasizing the importance of names, emphasizing the importance of giving parents to talk about the baby who died, and again, stressing the importance of continuity. If you've made this close connection with parents, let them know when you finish your shift whether you're going to be back tomorrow or not, whether they're ever going to see you again. And memory making is a massive topic, and I'm not going to go into detail. We know that things like footprints and handprints and photos are very important to parents when the baby dies. But what's really important from the Butterfly Project is trying to help parents make memories where both twins are together. This is why the antenatal ultrasound scans are so important to them. But anything you can do to get both the twins together is really important to parents, taking photos, perhaps them together. If they're sick, maybe getting the mum to sit with a twin on either side in incubators. We've even had parents cuddle, wrapped up in a blanket, the baby who had died, sitting next to the baby who survived. So parents really like any kind of shared memories. Any blankets or toys that the babies could share between them is really important. Pod occupancy is really hard. I mean, one of the things that we've struggled with in our neonatal units is, one day you have these twins next to each other on the neonatal unit, and then perhaps one dies, and within 12 hours, another baby is admitted into that space. So we explained to parents that unfortunately we're a busy unit and this is going to happen. And even acknowledging that that is going to be hard for parents makes a big difference. It shows parents that you care. We even offer to move the surviving baby now into a different room if parents would like, but actually, most parents have now asked us to move the cot with the surviving baby into the same cot space where the baby was who had died in some way, perhaps to protect the memory of that baby a bit longer. And going home is really hard. We tend to think that this is the end of the journey from the neonatal unit, that once the parents get to go home, that everything is fine and happy. But when parents go home, they break all of these connections that they've made with us as staff. They're probably never going to see us again. And they've become quite maybe reliant on us, or we form quite close connections. So preparing parents for discharge is really important, and acknowledging that those first few days and weeks at home with the surviving baby can be really quite challenging for many families. So there are lots of themes in this work. I want to sort of emphasize that many, many years later, parents remember how we made them feel. It's the little things that count. These small tokens, these small micro interactions really shape the way that parents feel about their experience on the neonatal unit. And so this project is very much more than just a butterfly symbol. This isn't about just putting a butterfly on the cot of the surviving baby. This is really making us think about our own identities, how we speak with parents about babies who died, the importance of names, the importance of acknowledgement. And so all of us should think about our words, about our behaviors, about how we interact after the baby goes home. We should think about our own body language and interactions with each other. And the project has developed some guidelines and resources, and all of these are available on the website. And we've managed to translate these into lots of different languages. And if you would like to work with me and make some translations into your own Filipino languages, I'd be delighted to help with you and share all of our resources. And as I say, I was very much struck by the power of listening to parents speak directly, and wanted to film some of the parents speaking about their experiences. And so I was lucky to work with a great film producer, and we filmed some of these parents more than 10 years ago now, made a short film, and I hope that we'll be able to show you this film at the end of the presentation today. And you can find these film clips and other resources on our website, neonatalbutterflyproject.org. And the butterfly symbols really worked. Parents have made artwork with the butterflies. They've had butterfly tattoos. You'll see a girl here in the middle taking a butterfly pin, a badge, on her school bag. So she's kind of feeling like she's taking the sister who died, taking that sister with her to school. So the butterfly symbols worked beautifully in our setting. But I appreciate that in your settings, the cultural context is a bit different, and the butterfly symbol may not always work, but I hope it might. And just to again acknowledge the parents who helped us with our research or took part in our films. Without these parents, we would not have had a project. So I'm really grateful for their bravery in talking about their very sad and painful experiences so that we can help other families around the world understand this difficult situation better. So those are the 8 themes again. As I say, you can read all about these on the website if you want to read about them. And as I say, this is the website, and as well as the film clips, we have some resources. And again, lots of my residents and fellows asked me about various scenarios, and parents told me about various scenarios, and I wanted just to capture these in writing. So these are some of the things that get said to parents that they found quite upsetting. So for phrases like, at least you've got still got one, you can try for another pregnancy, maybe you weren't ready, you'll get over it. I know what you're going through. These are all the things that might get said to parents. And in doing that, people are failing to acknowledge the pain, they're dismissing it, they're downplaying it, and they're judging parents. Um, Behaviors that parents found difficult. People not talking about the twin who died because they found it uncomfortable. Not using the baby's name, ignoring that the surviving baby is a twin, trying to deflect the conversation because they felt embarrassed or uncomfortable. So these are some of the things that parents have to cope with when they go home. But we also thought about and asked parents the sorts of things that they found helpful. So phrases, things that were said to them, or things people often do. And these were generally behaviors that you would call compassionate and thoughtful, things that might be helping to make memories and communicate. The importance of respecting their wishes. All of these parents are different. The offer of just listening to them speaking about their baby who died. Thought a little bit about challenges if the baby dies before delivery. So perhaps where one baby is still born, asking parents, do they want to see the baby who died in utero after they're born? Do they want to spend time with it? Do they want an opportunity to have both the twins together at any point in time? And parents also want to know, where does the dead body go? I mean, when the baby dies and they've spent some time and cuddled the baby and then they go home, where do we keep that baby? So they want to know these things sometimes. And what happens after a twin dies? So lots of issues here for you to think about in terms of planning funerals and whether we as staff should ever go to funerals, about post-mortem processes and bereavement counsellor. So lots of aspects there for us to be aware of. And then some issues that arise when the surviving baby stays on the neonatal unit or on a postnatal ward. What does that feel like? How do the parents get privacy? How do they cope if they see other twins? What happens when we admit another baby? And then some other things to think about when the parents go home, bereavement support, support groups, peer support is very important, and other processes like that. And then just helping parents think through what might they do in situations they find challenging. So, for example, just imagine taking your surviving baby to the vaccination clinic or the growth clinic. What does it feel like when they see other twins when they go home? So there are no easy answers to this. But sometimes acknowledging that parents are going to find these situations challenging, perhaps even offering to talk about strategies that may help them navigate this complex situation. So compassionate leadership is very important. As I say, this is about encouraging all of you to think about our behaviors and actions. Remembering it's the little things that count, learning to act as a leader on your neonatal units. And just emphasizing that learning to reflect, acknowledge these things actually makes your job more rewarding. And I haven't got time to show you films, but I've done some follow-up work with a lot of families, and we've been out to film some of these families now that the surviving babies are much older, and that provides a fascinating insight into how families cope and what do they do on the birthday or the anniversary, and what do they do when the surviving twin starts school for the first time. So acknowledgement is very important, not pretending that we know the answers or pretending we know what they're going through. Never saying anything like, oh, at least you've still got one, or at least the surviving baby is developing normally. We developed a little sticker that could go on top of the handheld notes for these babies when they come back to clinic. Maybe something like that would work well in your setting. And I've been lucky enough to make a lot of films with parents. As I say, like an acknowledgement is key, and all of you have enormous power to make a lasting difference to these parents. And so I've been busy putting lots of these films together in a YouTube channel, as well as making online courses. And I look forward to working with some of you in the future and seeing whether we can bring some of these courses to the Philippines. And so there's a YouTube link here that I will send to the team, and hopefully they can play you this short 5-minute video that we made about the project once I finish speaking. Again, thank you to the team at Philippine General Hospital and Division of Newborn Medicine for inviting me. And if you want to follow me, you can scan this QR code that will take you to a platform called Substack. And I'm doing a lot of writing there about baby loss and the Butterfly Project and some other projects like lactation after loss that I've been involved in. And so if you just scan that QR code, you can come and find me. And then on the website, I'll provide links to lots of the other projects that I've been involved in. And I'm going to finish there and say thank you very much again to Claudine for inviting me and the rest of the team. And good luck with the rest of your meeting. Thank you.